25 games, I'm just going to throw my immediate reaction out. This is too light. And I'm curious to see what you guys say about that. I'll tell why in a second, but 25 games shocks me. I had been hearing it was going to be between 25 and 30. I wasn't believing those reports.
Yes, let me just real quick, just so we're all on the same page here. Shams Charania and Woj have both reported that it's 25 games.
It's official then.
It's official. Woj also said that there are stipulations that come with the suspension he has to fulfill, and I apologize for reading off my phone, but this just came in.
That's fine.
He has to fulfill certain conditions within the team and the league for their approval. Yeah, it's a very long statement from there, so I'm going to try sifting through here. Do you want me to read the statement from the league?
Sift through it. We're going to come back to you for the cliff notes in 30 seconds. But, G. Bush, what's your immediate reaction when you hear 25 games? Because I thought that it would be 41 as a low and 82 as a high for a full season.
I'll throw my first judgment out. Just hearing it from what I'm just like you guys are hearing just now.
Yeah.
I always go back and say, what is the largest suspension I think ever given? And I think it was if you take a look at the Malice at the Palace, right?
Ron Artest,
Ron
right?
Artest.
It was it 71 games? It was the remainder of the season.
71.
71.
I think that's what it was.
So when you take a look at what that meant, I mean, he was in the stadium, in the stands, fighting a patron, right? That's the thing that you never want to get to. Your patrons, the customers, the fans are a part of that. So I guess that's the harshest letter of the law. Like, hey, you're fighting a fan, that you can be in trouble. Next, I'd look at suspensions for things like PD or gambling, right? So I'm looking at this during the spectrum. I expected it to be a half a season. However, I don't necessarily know what the Players Association had to say about it, right? When Gilbert Arenas took guns to work, right? Was he suspended for how many games?
I don't remember.
I don't
remember what it was, but it was maybe 10.
Maybe 10.
I don't know if we can look that up, Anthony. When Gilbert Arenas was busted bringing a gun into the Washington Wizards
locker room.
Did he get 10 games? My memory could be off. That's been 10 years.
Yeah. So he brought it to the workplace, and it was some animosity going on. They was going back and forth. Sure. Like, they was bringing guns, like, to show. And so I look at it and say, okay, well, if the Players Association says, hey, we do have some stipulations and we do have something that we can compare it to. The guy brought guns to work. He was outside of practice. He was outside of a facility. He didn't have any involvement. Yes, OG did get suspended, and he's a second-time offender.
That's it for me.
I thought they was going to get him on the second-time offender. I look at it like this. I think they probably had a range. I think originally it probably was half a year. And I don't know.
It was negotiated down by the
I think it was negotiated down. And I think there's some stipulations that we'll find out he has to complete for it to get to that point.
Yeah, let's go to McNuggets for that.
Yeah, so the direct stipulations and details of whatever program are not officially announced. But this is directly from the statement the NBA released 14 minutes ago, quote from Adam Silver. Prior to his return to play, Ja Morant will be required to fulfill and formulate a program that the league has directly correlated to address the circumstances that led him to repeat this destructive behavior.
Okay, so this is something tailored specifically to him.
This is not a...
Did you guys see that Skip Bayless said this on his podcast? I didn't watch it. I read the headlines and read a brief synopsis. Skip has become very, very, very good friends with Lil Wayne.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh yeah.
And I don't know if Skip asked Lil Wayne to reach out to Ja Morant or if Lil Wayne did it on his own, and in Skip having conversation with Lil Wayne, this came out. Maybe he told Skip, I reached out to him and he left me on red, as they say. Mm-hmm. So what worries me about that is, Lil Wayne has major cachet in the community.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we all kind of recognize it. At least he did with those of a certain age group.
Oh, he still do.
I'm wondering, though, if can you imagine Lil Wayne reaching out to an NBA player and an NBA player thinking, no, I don't need what he has to tell me? Because we've heard a lot of folks that have done that. Jalen Rose reached out. There are a lot of other guys that have kind of gone through his life, and they want to help him. And to me, what that symbolizes more than anything is this is a young man that believes he already has all the answers and he doesn't need anyone's help.
I think you can look at it like this as well. You can look at it, maybe he's in a dark place. Sometimes when you do something right, and you're like, dang, I done messed up again, and the whole world knows it and the whole world is on it, sometimes you tune out. Like, you try to tune it out as much as you can, especially he doesn't know really what the impending, disqualification is going to be. If his suspension is a year long, he's like, man, that's crazy. If it's a half a year, that's crazy. So he's thinking about what the punishment is going to be. And sometimes when you've been told, and you got guys like us, you got guys like Charles Barkley, his Skip Bayless, his rappers, his politicians. Everybody probably want to get in contact with him. There's probably a lot of requests that he gets, and sometimes you just want to.
But Lil Wayne?
Sometimes, look, here's the thing. Sometimes you just black out and say, listen, I don't want to talk about it right now.
Okay, that's fair. An update for you, and I've misremembered this.
Yeah, so I have it from Bleacher Report right here, written by Brian Flynn on January 27th, 2010. Gilbert Arenas was suspended for 1 year.
Yeah. Now,
was it indefinite and he didn't play for a year? Or was he suspended?
I don't know.
A year?
I'd like to call up his career stats and see what happens. See, what chunk of games he missed. Here's the thing, guys. So that's your standard right there.
Yeah.
Now the difference was there was some beef going on, and he brought it into the workplace.
Yeah.
However, I'm gonna say something that I'm not probably qualified to say because I don't know. I haven't lived in that lifestyle. But G. Bush, I want your reaction to this because you're far closer and in tune with the culture than I am. I don't know. Mm-hmm. The NBA had an opportunity here to take a major stance against, I don't even want to say gun crimes because I don't know that necessarily qualified as a crime where he was in possession and brandishing a gun. By the way, didn't he allege that it was a fake gun?
Yeah,
the NBA said they've had nothing to corroborate that.
Well,
so.
let's go through the machinations of that story.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out with my boys, and I'm going to, in my waistband, I'm going to put a fake pistol.
No, that's not it.
Okay, so we can all kind of pretty much just dismiss that. So that is what it is. But, gee, we have rising gun violence in every major city in the United States. Mm-hmm. Here in Cleveland, carjackings with the use of a gun are up 85%. Mm-hmm. Violent crime with the use of a gun, double-digit increases. And by the way, we're talking about year over year, where last year was a record, and 2021 was a record, and 2020 was a record. It's going the wrong way. We had yesterday a story on Channel 3 where Edwin's Restaurant, Edwin's is a very interesting concept. The owner of the restaurant, it's fine French cuisine. The owner of the restaurant staffs the entire restaurant with former cons.
That's awesome.
He's basically giving them a second chance at life.
That's awesome.
This model should be duplicated in every major city in America. And by the way, you won't find a better meal. 5-star, high cuisine. What he does is he gives these convicts, after they've been released, a second chance. He puts them through his culinary school. Mm-hmm. He houses them. He helps get them back on their feet. He gives them high-paying jobs where they can, if they want to stay there and work there, they can. But if they want to go somewhere else, they can do that too. He yesterday announced a program in the city of Cleveland where he's going to buy back guns for $250, irrespective of the condition or whatever. He's doing it to get guns off the street. Now, he hopes to get 5 sponsors corporate-wide that will help him pay for these guns. He expects to get as many as 100 to 250 weapons off the street. I don't know what that number is going to be. It might be far greater because we've been publicizing it quite a bit. Mm-hmm. But the idea here is we have small people in our community that are trying to make a big difference in a gun violence crime that we can't seem to solve. We talk about doing things, we do nothing. The NRA is one of the biggest lobbying organizations in the United States. We can't pass legislation because too many of our lawmakers are connected at the hip with the NRA. So here the NBA has a chance to make a huge social statement. And the NBA has said in the past, we're about social statements. We're about making our community better, safer. Here is one of the faces of its league committing a second gun infraction on tape for the whole world to see, and he gets less by a quarter almost easily, well, by a third almost, more than a third, than was given 14 years ago to Gilbert Arenas for bringing a gun to work.
So, Gilbert, by the way, Anthony got my ear. Gilbert had already played 32 games that year, so he missed 50.
So he's suspended for the rest of the
Used
year.
the rest of the season. The article headline was a little misleading. Bad job out of me, but I went and looked at the games. He
Yeah, because
played
I didn't
32
remember it being
Yeah,
the
he
full
played-
and was
season.
suspended for the rest.
Okay, so that's a
So it's half.
50-game
So it's half.
suspension. I would have been okay with a 41-game suspension
So
in this case.
I actually think in the totality, looking big picture, 25 games is the perfect number.
You do.
I
Why?
do. He didn't break a law. And we could look at him and say, he shouldn't be brandishing a gun. He's a role model. And G said this perfectly when we talked about him last time. For better or worse, athletes are role models that people look up to. Sometimes they don't choose it, but that's the reality of the position of the power they're in. However you feel on guns, pro-gun, anti-gun, I don't care. It's not illegal for him to have a gun in a car. He was with his friends. He didn't shoot anybody. He just was stupid and put it on camera. And really, his friend was dumber for knowing, hey, you just got in trouble for having a gun. I'm going to turn my Instagram live camera on you while you're holding it. Like, I wish he didn't have the gun. I wish he didn't brandish it. I wish he didn't show it. I wish he never brought it on the airplane in the first time or the strip club or wherever it was that he got in trouble with the gun. And he has to be smarter with decisions and surrounding him with people who can kind of put a magnifying glass on some of the decisions he's made. But he didn't break a law. And how do you punish a guy for half a season without pay and take away $15, $16 million
Deshaun
from his
Watson
$30 million?
got 2/3 of a season.
And
Didn't break the law.
And I still don't know how
And there
I
were
feel
no
about
guns involved.
I know, but I don't know how I feel about that suspension without any actual tangible proof that he did.
Well, you can say this.
Anything.
If we're going to ask, was the NFL too harsh, too lenient, or just right on Deshaun Watson?
Well, too
I
harsh.
think most people would say too harsh.
Yeah, I agree.
If you ask those same fans, was the NBA too harsh, too lenient, or just right? Now, I know you say just right, and I respect your opinion. But I think, and G. Bush, you and I agree, I think the vast majority would come down on too lenient.
And real quick, and just the last point on why it's right. So he misses 25 games. So if he plays 100 games, or 100% of the games that he's eligible to play, that's 57.
Yeah.
Based on the new CBA, he's not eligible for first, second, or third team All-NBA, which is where
Well, who cares about that,
but
Mike?
That's money now. That's
He
extra
needs money?
No, I'm just saying, but that's part of why, like, you could have said a little more, a little less. This completely negates him from getting any of the extra incentive bonuses.
Yeah, that means
and all
nothing
that.
to
So that's
me.
extra money that he could have made this year that now he's just completely ineligible
Ja
from the
Morant
get-go
doesn't
for.
need extra money.
I agree, but I'm just saying that's another downside of him missing that amount. of
G.
games.
Bush, here's my question to you.
Okay.
What message is sent to the young fan base of the NBA about Ja Morant flashing guns and what happens to you if you do it? Because before you answer that, I'll give you a quick example. There's a young man who goes to Orange High School in our area, I believe it was Orange, who was arrested because they found a bullet in the school and it ended up being his, and they traced it back to him. Then they went to his car and found a gun in his car. He's facing major charges.
Yeah.
He was obviously expelled from school. He's not Ja Morant. He doesn't have the protection of being a superstar. He doesn't have all the money in the world to afford any legal defense he wants. He's facing serious jail time. And we have Ja Morant, who the optics of it are horrible. What is that saying to the young fan base of the NBA? What are 13 and 14-year-old young NBA fans saying this morning about Ja Morant?
So I go back to two things. And I'll give you my personal experience. My mother and father, I've been married for 41 years. They're Christians. They don't. We weren't wild watching certain things. As a matter of fact, I used to think it was crazy because we couldn't even have super soakers. We couldn't have any water pistols. We couldn't.
Really?
No, for real. They're serious. Like we wasn't.
It was a form of a gun, and you weren't having it.
You weren't allowed touching no guns, right? So where I come from is a household where I grew up in a household where I never needed, like I never saw a place or an environment where I needed a gun. Some people come from places or environments. We take a look at all of our heroes. We take a look at Nipsey Hussle. We take a look at Jam Master Jay. We take a look at Tupac. We look at Biggie. We look at all these young artists. We just saw Migos, Offset from the Migos. Like all of our rappers, right? Our rappers, our civil rights leaders, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, all of our people are gunned down. They're shot. So when you grow up as a black person in this country, some people in the hood always say it's better I got it on me than not on me, because I'd rather be tried by what 12 than carried by 6, meaning that
I've heard that before.
So if you ain't got it on you, what you doing? And at the point where they don't understand, Ja Morant doesn't understand, like in the city of Cleveland or city of Memphis, Young Dolph just got killed. Young Dolph just got killed outside of a place where he just was getting cookies. 3 gunmen came and shot him, right? When you are living in the city of Memphis and you look like them, you act like them, and you are around certain people, the reality of this situation is sometimes if you're around certain people, you need a gun.
Well, there are other players in Memphis that don't need guns.
So here we
don't carry
guns. So here's what
is it the circle he's in
that
forces him to carry?
So if you got a circle of people around you, and those circle of individual people are in the streets, technically you're in the streets.
You're with them.
Because even if you don't do the same things they do, you ain't at the same places at the same time. You got to understand you with them, and on top of that, you are a target.
Big time.
You are the U.S. Bank. You are Huntington National Bank.
We had Greg Newsom on the show this week say he felt in these carjackings when he wasn't held at gunpoint, but they targeted him because of who he was.
Sure, absolutely, and that's Greg Newsom.
And Ja Morant has a lot more money than Greg Newsom.
But I want to get to
he does.
I want to get to the crux of the situation. Your question is, what does it say? I've said on this show before, in America, we have a problem with guns. Across the bow, we have a problem with our infatuation of guns. To me, I look at it as a symptom. Ja Morant is a symptom. Ja Morant is a symptom of the problem of how we put these guns on pedestals. We put the guns before people. Then you tell people, well, we can't stop school shootings. I remember the first, Jay, you remember this, when Columbine happened, right?
Yeah.
The world stopped.
It was appalling. We couldn't believe it.
Could not. Now
they're common.
It's every 30 seconds, and we go right on to our next thing.
Yeah.
30 seconds. And on to the NBA Finals, because it's happening. That's how rampant it's become. And I must say this: Ja Morant, he got the 25 games. We don't know what's going to go on behind closed scenes, but one thing that I will say is, if you got your NBA players, if you got people in schools that kids are scared to go to school because they think they're going to die like their friends, and you got people that can help this, you got people that can stop it, that are taking pictures with AR-15s and as Christmas pictures. Christmas pictures, they are taking the people who are standing up saying thoughts and prayers are in the Christmas pictures with their kids, 1 through 5 with the guns. You got guys in office doing that.
Preach.
What type of stuff is this, man? What type? And they do it and they think it's funny. I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, liberal, or whatever you call yourself. You know we have a problem in this country. That's the equivalent of knowing that we have a fentanyl problem in this country, and you taking a needle and acting like you shooting up.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's disrespectful, man. And then people do that for clout, and it trickles down. And then Ja Morant says, well, if they did it, I think it'd be good for me.
I want to be clear, too. I am not... at the root of this discussion, Ja Morant is a young man who needs some guidance right now.
Yep.
The lifestyle he's living is the lifestyle he now chooses to live. He doesn't have to live that lifestyle anymore.
He don't have to use that. He
In
don't
fact,
have to do that.
There's a famous line in the movie Good Will Hunting. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's one of the most moving scenes in the movie was when Ben Affleck was talking with Matt Damon. Matt Damon had these unbelievable mathematical genius powers, but he didn't want to use them because he wanted to stay in the hood in South Boston and live that life. And Ben Affleck was having a conversation with them outside their construction job. They were having a smoke break. And he said, let me tell you something. Because Matt Damon's character basically says, Good Will Hunting. Will says, hey, 20 years from now, I picture us running around the backyard with our kids, taking them to Little League games. And Ben Affleck stops for a second. He says, wait a minute. If you're still here 20 years from now, I'm going to whip your ass.
Yeah.
And
Great
Will's
team.
like, what are you talking about? And he said, bro, you're sitting on a winning lottery ticket. You've hit life's lottery. If you stay here, that's an insult to me, because I would give everything I own and years off my life to have what you have. It's a gift. And if you waste it by hanging out with us thugs, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
And the message in that kind of applies here.
Yep.
He needs someone in his crew that loves him, not for his money, but for who he is, to tell him, Ja, you're going to piss all of this away, bro. You're going to piss all of this away. You've been given a gift, and it's fleeting. Mm-hmm. In Matt's case, he would still have his mathematical genius powers at 60. Mm-hmm. Ja Morant won't be able to jump, shoot, and run at 40. There's a limited window, and someone needs to get to this young man and tell him, turn your life around. You don't need us anymore. Get the hell out of here. We don't want to see you again except for on Christmas cards and family gatherings. Take your guns, get rid of them. Live the life that God has intended you to live. He gave you a gift. Don't screw it up. And that's what he needs. And Lil Wayne and Jalen Rose and other people that have been in that situation, who have taken their gifts and capitalized on them and used them to not just better themselves, but to better society, they're trying to get through to him.
Lil Wayne shot himself. Lil Wayne shot.
Yes, he did.
Shot himself and flatlined.
Yes.
And the cop.
And should have died.
And should have died. And the cop, a white cop, by the way, we shouldn't have to deliberate that. But in the hood, they told Lil Wayne he's gone.
Yes.
He's out of here. The cop said no. He grabbed him, put him in his car, drove him to the hospital, and he says, without that cop,
he's dead.
He's dead. So he has a story for him to listen to, right? And Lil Wayne, after a while, even Lil Wayne went through a situation where he had a gun and he had to go to Rikers.
After this.
After this. So for a whole year, at the height of his career, had to go to Rikers. So sometimes it's just one of them things where somebody could tell you, sometimes you got to sit down.
Right.
Sometimes you're going to have to sit down for you to get that.
Like, that's a powerful story. And so this is what I'm saying. I'm not saying he needs 41 games because I don't like Ja Morant. I love Ja Morant. Mm-hmm. I think Ja Morant is a generational talent.
Yeah.
I think Ja Morant could be a top 3 player in this league for the next 10 years. Mm-hmm. The only thing that stands in the way from that and what could become a tragedy is Ja Morant. What road do you want to travel? You're at a fork. You can go left or you can go right. But this is life-changing. This is a very big moment. And here's why I'm disappointed in the league. He hasn't reached that point by being punished once already. He hasn't reached that point. A lot of people that have been through any kind of turmoil like this, that either need an interdiction or they need some sort of reckoning, oftentimes it's called rock bottom. Yeah. What is rock bottom going to be? One of his boys gets shot and killed? Maybe he shoots and kills someone? Maybe he gets shot and killed. We don't want it to come to that. The league had an opportunity to be your parents. And to say to Ja Morant, we love you so much, we're going to give you tough love.
I think the difference between the NFL and the NBA is the NBA has less control over
the player.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The
You're
NFL.
absolutely right.
And it's difficult to suspend a guy where you have LeBron James saying, "Oh, we ain't gonna see LeBron or whoever's there, Chris Paul or these are
the
big
players.
The
That
players.
would be the equivalent of your siblings lobbying to your parents about how they're going to discipline you. At the end of the day, it is the National Basketball Association, and that logo, that shield, is bigger than all of the players collectively because that's the shield that's represented the players for over 50 years.
I will agree with that in the NFL side. The NBA side, it's not like your parents. It's like they are they're friends. Like you ever see somebody's kids and they act like they're their friends. They call them by the name. Nancy, I'm not going to my room, Nancy.
No, I can't stand that. I can't stand
John,
that. Like we're equals.
Like they're equals.
Yeah.
So when you have this, I guarantee they probably had to go and fight for that.
You're
25.
probably right. And look, there's probably things that I don't know about that go on behind the scenes. I'll wrap it up by saying this. Here's my absolute bottom line hope. Mm-hmm. My hope is Ja Morant gets the message loud and clear, and he realizes I can't keep this lifestyle going. I'm making $35 million a year. What was his last year's salary? What was his salary? $40 million?
He just signed the giant extension.
I know.
So.
He's got all the money in the world. Money is no longer an issue. He doesn't need to be out in the streets. He doesn't need to hustle. He doesn't need to hang with guys that are carrying guns. He doesn't need that lifestyle. You don't see LeBron doing it.
He needs. I'll give him my final say on it. Like I told Greg Newsom. At the end of the day, a lot of people don't be wanting security because they want to say I could go to anywhere without security. A lot of people don't. I got it on me. I'm cool. I got my people with me. No. It's a different age out here. Inflation is crazy. People ain't got no money. You're a target, bro. If you want to go someplace, hire you some professional security.
Be careful the places you go.
And you got to watch where you go. But anywhere you go, as you get older,
he's a target.
You are a target.
Yeah.
$250 million. Get you some people.
I hope future headlines of Ja Morant read like this: Ja Morant, a force in his community. Ja Morant gives back to his community by helping youth avoid pitfalls in the future. Ja Morant wins NBA championship. Ja Morant, NBA MVP. Yeah. I hope they look like that and not what I told you before. Ja Morant involved in tragic shooting.
It could happen.
Ja Morant found in possession of illegal guns, looking at 5 to 7 years in prison. I don't want that. And I think the league had a chance to be the parent here and to send a loud and clear message that you can't have both lifestyles. He can't. He can't have the street lifestyle and he can't have the NBA lifestyle. It's time for him to choose. And you said something very prophetic earlier. Players, whether they choose to be role models or not, let me tell you something. When I love Charles Barkley, both personally and his public persona.
He said he's not a role model.
He said he is. But just because you say you're not a role model doesn't mean you're not. Role models are tapped on the shoulder. Society decides who a role model is. And whether Ja Morant likes it or not, there are tens of thousands of 13-year-old boys in this country that look to Ja Morant as what they want to become. He is a role model, whether he wants to be or not. That's a cop-out. I've always thought that was a cop-out by Charles Barkley.
Yeah, I mean, he is a role model, but that's a responsibility that
comes with a $50 million paycheck in the NBA.
It comes with it, but I just think it's unfair to hold everyone to a certain standard.
I don't.
Every person is their own individual.
You're a role model.
I know, and I
hope you conduct yourself as such. You always have.
Yeah, I mean, I try to.
Right.
And I'm sure Ja, and I know we have to move on in a sec, but the whole thing with Ja, at the end of the day is, we all hope, you said it, G said it, that hopefully this 25-game suspension, whatever program he goes to. Message received puts him back on the track. The 8-game suspension for the first time obviously did not ring home. It did not. It wasn't enough. 25 games, I don't know what the financial stipulation, he's not getting paid, so that he's making 40-something million this year, 25, so that's at least $15 million plus.
He won't miss it.
I understand, but at the end of the day, $15 million is still $15 million. Yeah. So I hope this puts him back on the right track. I hope he takes
I did too, Mike.
a lesson learned, and he's a new father. His daughter is 1.5, 2. She was part of his shoe release commercial.
And guess what? He's a role model for her.
And for, if nothing else, that's what I hope he gets his life back on track.
It can happen. I know a guy. Yeah. You know a guy.
We all know. Yeah.
Maurice Claret.
Yeah,
absolutely. Come on now. He was in the back. We had the automatic rifles with the cops on him.
He went to prison for guns.
3 years prison.
I know a lot of people have reached out to Ja. I get that. I understand that. But just remember this. Maurice Claret, as a freshman, almost won the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
After he won the national championship, he never played another down in college. He never played a single snap in the NFL. And
I didn't realize that. You're right, though.
You never did.
Yeah.
That was it.
I didn't realize
when we saw him on the field against Miami holding up the national trophy.
That's the last.
That's the
highest he was. That was the last. Now, he did play in
the Canadian Football League for
he played in
Alouettes.
Some off leagues.
Yeah.
That's not what he was bred to do. He was meant from birth to be a football star, a dominant football star.
I did not realize.
And he derailed his career.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this because I've been friends with Maurice for 15 years. I'm not. Of the role models that I know, of the people that I know that I think Ja Morant can be most helped from,
right up there.
Maurice Claret is the guy.
And if he's
the guy.
And if you say this to Maurice Claret, and they will put a bow on it, sometimes you learn by learning from other people. Sometimes you learn by you getting in trouble. Sometimes you learn by sitting here and watching other cats, and sometimes you learn by paying the ultimate price. Maurice Claret says all the time, going to sit in jail for 2-3 years saved my life.
Yeah.
He says it all the time. Sitting down for 2-3 years, making me think about what I was doing and how I'm more than just a football player, and how, because what happens is when you're in that jail cell and you away from your girl, you away from your mom, you get a lot of time to think about what the heck you doing in your life. And guess what? We hope Ja Morant gets it for at least 25, because I don't want you to pay the 25 to
I don't
life.
either. I don't want to see
25
him
life.
pay any other price
There you go.
than missed games.
Yep.
And what scares me about this is, if we picked up a paper tomorrow and see Ja Morant arrested for gun use, or Ja Morant wanted in questioning for a shooting, or Ja Morant associate gunned down and killed, are any of us going to look at them and say, oh my God, I can't believe it? This is stunning news. No. Why? That's the trajectory he's on. Maurice Claret has done something I think it's the hardest thing in the world to do. He's written a successful second chapter without leaning on the success of his first chapter.
Yeah.
He leaned on his failure. And for someone to become a millionaire post-prison, post-career collapse, and do it the way he's done it, you do that through hard work and through, a lot of personal inspection and going through those things. I hope to God that Ja gets the help he wants. Here's the problem. If you ask Ja Morant, will you talk to Maurice Claret? You might as well ask him, will you talk to Hopalong Cassidy? He doesn't know who Maurice Claret is. Maurice Claret was a football star 20 years ago in another life.
Ja was born in 2000.
The Buckeyes won the national championship in 2001.
I think 2000.
So
He's
Ja
only
Morant,
3 years younger than me.
Ja Morant was 1 year old when Maurice Claret was last relevant.
He was
as
born
a
in
pro
99,
athlete.
my bad. 99.
Okay, so he was 2 years old when Maurice Claret was a commodity in sports.